Hendricks Community Hospital Association, 70th anniversary, 1926 to 1996. In celebration of the Hendricks Community Hospital Association's 70th anniversary, a collection of photos depicting past and present events and people was put together in video format. We hope you enjoy this stroll down memory lane. Hendricks, a village born in 1900, quickly developed into a bustling small town whose citizens were interested in progress. A community meeting held in the upstairs room of the Opera House in 1924 was for the purpose of discussing the need for a hospital in order to keep their ambitious doctor. That fall, local residents with teams of horses were on hand to break soil for the 80 by 30 foot two-story building with a basement. The hospital was dedicated April 25, 1926, with the capacity to accommodate the needs of up to 14 patients. Prior to the building of the hospital, resident doctors had served the medical needs of the community from its beginning in 1900. In August 1903, an ad in a local paper listed Dr. J.C. Jensen, calls answered promptly day or night. Early doctors used a horse and buggy as a means of transportation, but Dr. Jensen eventually purchased a car, which became a familiar sight in the community. Dr. Jensen stayed in Hendricks until his retirement in the late 1920s. A young man, Dr. Lewis Nelson, set up a practice in the early 1920s. It was he, together with local leaders, who prodded the Hendricks community into building a hospital. At the time of the dedication, Dr. Nelson had 5 patients housed in the local hotel waiting to be moved to the hospital. Dr. Nelson's thriving practice was cut short when he was killed in a car accident in December 1928. Dr. P.E. Hermanson became the next resident doctor, taking over the practice in 1929. He continued until his retirement in 1963. He and his wife Ethel raised 4 sons in Hendricks: Richard, John, James, and Charles. James passed away in 1954. During his 34 years in Hendricks, Dr. Hermanson's capacity for service and work were evident, as he was a member of a number of service organizations. His vigor and determination influenced the completion of projects such as the additions to the school and the additions to the clinic and hospital retirement home complex. Olena Rognes, a native of neighboring Astoria, South Dakota, became the first hospital administrator. For the next 40 years, until her retirement, she did virtually everything, assisting the doctors in all areas of their work, hired staff, and managed the accounts. During the 30s, when money was short, she would drive around the community to pick up meat and vegetables from farmers in payment of their hospital bills, and then organized ladies of the community to process the food for the hospital kitchen. Her 40 years gave the hospital a solid foundation. Other staff members in those early years were the head nurse, Ida Rao, the sister of Dr. Nelson, who had been his able assistant in surgery. She continued in her position for about 10 years after his death. Her husband, Rollo Rao, was the x-ray technician, custodian, and general errand man. He purchased groceries and fished for walleye to supply meat for the patients and staff in the hospital. Mabel Hansen, Kirsten Lundy, and Gina Hexam joined the ranks as RNs. Clara Quernmo and Merle Johnson were nurses' aides. Besides Dr. Hermanson, other doctors on the staff were Dr. Monson and Dr. Yeager. This staff experienced the hardships of the Depression years. There were low salaries and even no salaries to keep the hospital from closing. Dust storms made it difficult to keep the hospital clean. Wet towels were put in the windowsills to keep out some of the dust. Finally, the rains came again, crops were harvested, and the economy brightened. The hospital had become too small. In 1939, the East Addition was planned. This 2-story wing was opened in 1940, increasing the size of the hospital to 21 beds. Dr. C.O. Thompson, a young single man, joined the staff in 1937. 4 years later, he went into the service and served in the Pacific Theater of War. After the war, he returned to Hendricks to resume his medical practice. In 1947, wedding bells rang for Dr. Thompson and a local nurse, Lillian Looning. They made Hendricks their home until his retirement in 1981. 2 sons, Bradley and David, grew up here. This busy father doctor found time for taking part in community affairs as well as professional organizations. One of his biggest thrills was in helping plan and work on the Hendricks Golf Course. Dr. Thompson took an active part in the course project as he dug between 200 and 300 holes for trees himself. He especially enjoyed taking care of the trees and watching them grow. He also made a profound commitment to his patients by making himself available at all times. He looked forward to pursuing his hobbies of wood carving and writing poetry in his retirement. When he left, he had served the Hendricks community for 41 years. Hospital staff Christmas parties were held in the Legion Hall. At first, the staff members planned their own entertainment with the doctors and their wives participating. There was gaiety and laughter. Who can forget Dr. Thompson wearing his big nose mask and directing the singing? There were other parties, birthday parties and recognition parties. After 17 years of operation, the Hendricks Community Hospital found it necessary to buy a home to house many of the staff nurses and other workers. Previously, they had lived in the upstairs rooms at the hospital or in various homes throughout town. A home on East Lincoln Street was purchased. It was conveniently located 1/2 block from the hospital. The number of ladies staying there at one time peaked at 14. This home was used for 30 years, from 1943 to 1973. Gus Johnson took over as custodian in the late 1930s after Rollo Rao left. Gus was a widower and at first lived upstairs in the hospital. Later, he built a house on Oak Street, after which he married Anna Ronning. For 27 or more years, he faithfully served in many capacities: X-ray technician, shopper, and general handyman, as well as custodian. Gus retired in 1965. Among the new homes built in Hendricks in the 1950s was that of Dr. Hermanson's. He and his family had lived in an older home close to the hospital for 21 years. When the new home was completed, a large number of people attended a housewarming party for the Hermansons. As the institution grew, so did its needs. In 1956, the Hendricks Hospital Auxiliary was organized for the purpose of raising funds for equipment needed for the new hospital. Early money-raising projects included a diminishing tea or traveling food basket, collecting old rags for rugs, a scrap iron drive, and the corn project. The latter solicited donations of 1 bushel of corn to be put in a corn crib. In 1958, the birthday calendar was started and continues to this day. Other fundraisers include the Fall Bazaar and the Quilt Project. Every Monday, ladies volunteer their time to stitch quilts. In its 40 years of operation, the auxiliary has contributed a generous amount of money to the hospital. Dr. George Purvis came to Hendricks during World War II after Dr. Thompson entered the Armed Services Medical Corps. Dr. Purvis was a native of Tracy, Minnesota, and had graduated from the University of Minnesota Medical School. He and his wife Evelyn had 3 children, Richard, Kathleen, and Diane. Richard passed away in 1952 at the age of 12. This family lived in Hendricks for 14 years. While here, Dr. Purvis also saw patients in the clinic at Lake Benton. In July of 1955, a farewell party was given for the Purvis family on the lawn of the Gulbra home, formerly the home of Dr. Hermanson. Dr. Purvis moved to Buffalo, Minnesota, where he practiced medicine until retirement. Dr. Gustav J. Gulseth joined the staff in 1957. He had been a missionary doctor in China for 10 years and in East Africa for 5 years. His wife Elsie, an RN, assisted him in his mission. The Gulseths had 6 children. Dr. Gulseth practiced in Hendricks for 5 years before moving to California. Recognizing the need for modern facilities and equipment, the Hospital Corporation began a fundraising program in 1956. In August 1958, the new Hendricks Community Hospital was dedicated to all whose efforts and support aided its progress. The 30-bed facility included an ambulance entrance, emergency room, X-ray, laboratory, kitchen, and laundry. The surgical suite was equipped to handle most types of major surgery. The obstetrical department included a delivery room, labor room, and nursery. Administrative and business offices were located near the lobby. The new hospital was connected to the original hospital structure via a tunnel. The old hospital was converted to a 30-bed retirement home in 1958. For 35 years, this place served as home to many. In the early 1960s, Lillian Thompson started working with the Red Cross Girls program, and the first group of candy stripers were trained. They were so named because of their blue and white striped uniforms. As volunteers, they did non-nursing jobs such as providing beverages and snacks, reading mail, passing out fresh laundry, and being a friend to the patients. When the candy stripers turned 16, they had the option of taking a nurse's aid class. On July 1st, 1966, Hazel Evenson became the new administrator of the Hendricks Community Hospital. Hazel had been associated with the local hospital for nearly 20 years, serving as head surgical nurse from 1947 until 1962, when she became certified as an assistant administrator. Before coming to Hendricks, she had served 3.5 years in the Army Nurse Corps during World War II and spent 18 months of that period in England. During her 16-year tenure as administrator, she faced the challenges of Medicare and other changes in the healthcare field. As the need for more beds with skilled nursing care increased, expansion of the medical facilities was begun in 1969 with the building of the nursing home. A loan from the Federal Housing Administration was made and construction begun. In April of 1970, an open house was held to allow the public to tour the new 40-bed facility. On May 4, 1970, the first 4 residents were admitted. Thelma Thorson, a member of the office staff for 31 years, held a number of positions within the business office. She also served as assistant administrator under both Hazel Evenson and Stephen Mattowny. She retired in 1988. Dr. Leroy Mueller, a young graduate from the University of Minnesota School of Medicine, came to Hendricks in 1963. He brought with him his new bride, Gloria, who was an RN. Leroy had grown up on a farm near Belle Plaine, Minnesota. 4 children were born to them: Brian, Lisa, Bart, and Laura. They all grew up in Hendricks and graduated from Hendricks High School. All are now college graduates and pursuing their careers. In his 33 years of practice, Dr. Mueller has seen many changes in the medical field. For example, surgical patients are ambulated the same day as surgery. Fathers are allowed in the delivery room. The coronary care unit enables heart attack patients to be monitored, and drugs are given to dissolve blood clots. Hospital room rates in 1963 were $11, and office calls were $3. Dr. Mueller credits his surgery skills to Dr. Thompson, who is a good teacher. Whether he's delivering babies, doing surgery, or prescribing medications, he finds every aspect of his practice rewarding. Dr. Mueller is an avid jogger, also enjoys gardening, as well as tennis and golf. Stephen Lynn Mattowny, a native of Hendricks, was the 3rd administrator of the Hendricks Healthcare Facility. He had attended Golden Valley Lutheran College and graduated from Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota in 1976. After serving as assistant administrator for a few years, he became administrator in 1982. During his tenure, a building project, including the addition of 3 wings to the nursing home, the building of a chapel, and the construction of an 8-unit congregate living apartment building were under his supervision. He was devoted to his work, valued each employee, and had tremendous pride in his staff and facility. After 11 years as administrator, Stephen died at the University of Minnesota Hospital on May 12, 1993, as a result of diabetic complications. Dr. Tab McCluskey, a native of Arlington, South Dakota, came to Hendricks with his wife Joan and family on July 1, 1987. He received his training at the University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha and the Kirksville College of Osteopathic Medicine in Kirksville, Missouri. He chose to practice in a rural community and felt that Hendricks was a good place to raise children. Some of his favorite parts of medicine include obstetrics and working with the elderly population. Dr. McCluskey and his wife Joan have 3 children: Justin, age 11, Braden, age 8, and Landon, age 6. Dr. McCluskey's interests include family activities, black powder deer hunting, and waterfowl hunting. He enjoys old machinery and is involved in the local 2-cylinder club. When the retirement and nursing home were established, weekly church services for the residents were held in the dining room to provide for their spiritual nurture. The need for a chapel to provide a more worshipful setting became evident as the number of residents increased. The Chapel Fund was originally started in 1982 with a memorial gift to the Hendricks Hospital and Homes in memory of a former nursing home resident. A fund drive through memorials, gifts, and fundraisers was begun. By 1986, the goal of $80,000 was established, and the groundbreaking ceremony took place on July 23rd. All the governing board members and the area clergy took their turn at the shovel. When the building was completed, an open house and dedication service took place on June 19, 1988. The construction of the project involved 2 parts, one being the chapel multipurpose room and the other the renovation of the business office. Our present administrator, Kirk Stensrud, worked as assistant administrator from 1990 to 1993. After Steve's death, the Hendricks Hospital and Homes Governing Board appointed Kirk as administrator of the facility. He's a native of Clarkfield, Minnesota, and a graduate of Concordia College in Moorhead. Kirk continues in the Hendricks Community Hospital Association tradition of providing quality services to all people who need them. Kirk, his wife Kristen, and daughter Ellen live in their home on Lake Hendricks. The first clinic in Hendricks, located on West Lincoln Street, was built in 1926, with an addition constructed in 1939. As the community showed the need for expanded medical services, a new clinic was constructed on North Main Street in the year 1974. Presently, the clinic is served by 2 physicians and a registered nurse practitioner. One dentist also has an office in the same building. The vision of having the residents from the retirement and nursing homes in one area began taking shape in the form of 3 extensions located to the south, east, and west of the nursing home. The remodeling project included resident lounges, bathing areas, office space, and staff lounge report area. In September of 1993, when the retirement home residents were moved to the enlarged nursing home, the population there increased from 40 to 70. The addition of 3 wings to the nursing home was part of a $2.8 million project begun in May 1992. In addition, an ancillary service wing was constructed. This provided space for optometry services, physical therapy, cardiac rehabilitation, social service office, a beauty shop, an activities department, and a conference room and a family dining area. Lincoln Lane Villa, a congregate living complex, is the latest addition to the spectrum of services that the Hendricks Community Hospital Association is able to offer the people it serves. The villa consists of 8 apartments located in a security building attached to the rest of the healthcare center through a hallway. Services offered include housekeeping, laundry, home health, and dietary. A noon meal is served daily. A tenant lounge and dining room are located within Lincoln Lane Villa to be used by the tenants and their guests. Each apartment is equipped with emergency pull cords. In keeping with the mission of the Hendricks Community Hospital Association, the Home Health Care Program was formulated in 1983. Home health care is a continuation of services which can prevent illness, improve or restore body functioning, and enhance life and living. On the home health care staff are the 2 doctors and 10 or more trained healthcare workers, which includes nurses aides and RNs. In 1995, 5,000 home visits were made. Hospice care focuses on care for patients with terminal illnesses. The Hendricks Community Hospital Good Shepherd Hospice was certified in April 1994. The symbol is based on Christ's words, "I am the Good Shepherd." Hospice care is provided to the patient and family. It meets the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of the patient and family. Many individuals and groups have provided volunteer services to patients and residents within the facility since its beginning. The need for a structured volunteer program became apparent as the new hospital and home were constructed. The Volunteer Services Board was founded in 1977 for the purpose of organizing, planning, and networking volunteer efforts. On February 1st, 1978, the program Outreach of Love was established. Some of the volunteer activities include distributing mail, one-to-one visits, sewing services, gift cart services, setting hair, and sharing musical talents. Each spring, a luncheon is served to all volunteers in appreciation for their services. Transportation of clients has also undergone changes. During the snowy winter of 51-52, patients were brought in by area pilots in their airplanes. 2 of these pilots were Adolph Anderson and Flying Pete Cruz. In later years, the Hendricks Hospital has received air services of both Sioux Valley and McKennan hospitals. On May 20th, 1987, a new Trauma 1 helicopter operated by Sioux Valley Hospital landed in the parking lot of the Hendricks Hospital and was open to be viewed by the public. This was the beginning of helicopter services made available to the Hendricks facility. Ambulance service was first provided by Lloyd Johnson, the local mortician. When funds became available, the hospital purchased its own ambulance. Since then, modern ambulances have been added and trained emergency medical technicians are on call. On July 1st, 1995, the Hendricks Clinic added a family nurse practitioner, Deborah Browning, to its staff. Deborah has a master's degree from the University of Kentucky and is presently working on her nursing doctorate. A native of Jasper, Minnesota, Deborah has 10 years of experience and specializes in women's health and family practice. Deborah, her husband Denny, and 2 children, Heather and Tristan, live on a farm located north of Hendricks. At the head of the Hendricks Community Hospital and Homes Association is a 9-person governing board who, together with the administrator, makes decisions as to the needs and goals of the healthcare facility. Without the futuristic outlook of this board, the facility would not have reached its present standard of being well equipped with additional space and the latest technology. Julie Hoagie began working in the hospital office in 1975 as a bookkeeper. She then became an accredited records technician, which enabled her to work in medical records. One of the greatest changes in the office during her tenure has been installation of the computer system, which was completed in 1991. Julie currently serves as the business office manager. The Hendricks Memorial Healthcare Foundation was established to ensure the future of the Hendricks Community Hospital Association. The mission of the Hendricks Community Hospital Association is to provide quality health care to the communities that it serves. The foundation's purpose is to promote this mission. Contributions made to the foundation will enhance the future healthcare services in our communities. A daycare center was opened in 1995, primarily for the children of the hospital and home's employees. Olena Rognus's home, which was adjacent to hospital property, was purchased a few years earlier and is now the daycare center. This is another example of keeping up with the times. This Old Place Thrift Shop is a project sponsored by the Hospital Auxiliary. It was opened in February of 1994 in the old retirement home building. Large quantities of donated items are received. Proceeds from the shop are used to buy equipment for the healthcare facility. In the past 7 years, an increased number of services have enhanced the spectrum of care at Hendricks Community Hospital Association. Behind all services, new and old, is the caring staff. Now, some of the faces that have made up the proud heritage of the Hendricks Community Hospital and Nursing Home.
If home is really where the heart is, then home must be a place we all can share. For even with our differences, our hearts are much the same. For where love is, we come together. Wherever there is laughter ringing, someone smiling, someone dreaming, we can live together there. Love will be our home. Wherever there are children singing, where a tender heart is beating, we can live together there. 'Cause love will be our home. With love, our hearts can be a family, and hope can
During the past 70 years, the healthcare facility of Hendricks has developed into an institution which could have never been visualized by its founders. Thanks are owed to dedicated staff, doctors, and the people of Hendricks and the surrounding communities for their generous support.